Hello and welcome to Inside Iraq. I'm Jassim Azzawi. On the 7th anniversary, we re-examined the war on Iraq through the eyes of authors. Some authors focused on the military campaign. Others paid attention to the human tragedy. But very few kept their eyes fixed on the whole picture. Today, bookshelves are brimming with books on the war. But does that mean we know the whole story? Or will history reveal some shocking secrets? While authors strive to provide readers with insight, history has its own way of forming perspectives. Critics of the war have asked, when authors write the story of Iraq, do they tell an American, German, Russian, or an Iraqi story? To get to the truth, one of our guests had to live his thrilling experience with fighters of the Iraqi resistance. I am delighted to welcome from Ann Arbor, Michigan, Professor Juan Cole, whose website, juancole.com, over the last 7 years has emerged as one of the best sources for news and analyses about Iraq. And from Munich, Germany, Jürgen Todenhöfer, author of Why Do You Kill Zaid?, a book which in 2008 was leading the German bestseller list for many months. The book has been translated into Arabic and English. Gentlemen, welcome to Inside Iraq. Jürgen Todenhöfer, explain the enigmatic title of your book, Why Do You Kill Zaid? Who is Zaid, and why are you asking him, why do you kill?
The reason why I ask this question and why I make these trips to Iraq and sometimes also to Afghanistan is that the Western people, the people from the United States and from my country, don't understand the Muslim world. They don't understand why these people are fighting, why they want to be free. And I didn't want to give the answer. I want to ask a young student who lives in Ramadi, and he was fighting against Americans and he has destroyed a tank. And I wanted to ask him, why did you kill? And I spent a week with him in Ramadi, and he told me his story. And it's just a story of a young student, a student like all the students all over the world. He wanted to study, and then he didn't want to fight, and then his brother was killed. And then he decided together with his youngest brother to continue to study and not to fight. And then the Americans killed his second brother. And he saw his second brother dying in front of their house. He couldn't go outside because there was heavy shooting. He saw through the window how his little brother died. And this night he decided to fight. And he became a fighter. He became a fighter not to revenge, but to free his country. And that's the story. And that's what I asked him, why do you kill Zaid? And he gave me the answer. And it was a very sad answer.
That is one chapter, Juan Cole, and there are many stories like that as related by Todenhöfer. I'm sure you know many, many other stories, and you have covered the war. And like we said in our intro, your website has emerged over the past 7 years as perhaps one of the best, if not the best, for news and analysis about Iraq. And yet, having said that, do we know the whole story about Iraq today, or will be surprised in the future that some secrets are still lingering?
Well, you know, there was a great diplomatic historian who said there are no secrets if you know where to look. I don't think that we have great secrets in store for us. The general outlines of what we know are that the Bush administration, for its own reasons, launched this war on false pretexts. It lied repeatedly over 900 times to the American people about why it was doing it. And having conquered the country, they made no provision for post-war governance. They destroyed the army. They deeply damaged the civil service. And they left the country a basket case. They set the stage in which then a power vacuum caused a civil war to break out, which killed thousands and displaced hundreds of thousands, if not millions, and plunged the country into a very dark period from which it now may be finally emerging.
You did something very unusual, Jürgen Todenhöfer. You actually went and covered the war from the perspective of the Iraqi resistance. You went and saw exactly what they were doing. Were they fighting the Americans? Were they fighting Al-Qaeda? Who were they fighting against?
They were fighting for the freedom of their country. And they were fighting for the pride of their country. But Juan, I must say, I think there are still secrets in Iraq, because the Iraq image, the images that we see from Baghdad, are not the truth. I was in Iraq again in spring last year, in August last year, And this legendary city of 1001 nights has turned into a gloomy fortress of thousands of concrete walls, of thousands of shooting towers, of thousands of heavily armed checkpoints. And you can perhaps now, because you were a little bit optimistic, you can perhaps, I say perhaps, now vote freely, but you can't move freely anymore. And I had a camera team because I'm making a film about kids in Iraq and in Afghanistan. And I asked my camera team, please film these concrete walls, film these towers, film these surveillance balloons over the city. And they said, we cannot. And I asked them 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then they said, yes, okay, we try. And in the evening, I got the information they were arrested, they were beaten up, the camera was confiscated, the material was confiscated, and the laptop was destroyed. And the reason why we don't see the real image is that this actual government doesn't want us to see the truth of this country. And for example, I was in the German embassy and I spoke to the ambassador and I wanted to discuss the situation in Baghdad. But these people are unable to tell you anything about Baghdad because the German diplomats in their embassy are not allowed to leave the embassy 1 single minute. The same holds true with the members, the diplomats of the American embassy. They never leave their compounds.
If that is the case, Jürgen Todenhöfer, let me ask Juan Cole. Juan Cole on his website and as well as in some of his writing, he's saying that the Pentagon, and by that I guess that he means the military, it doesn't have to be the American Pentagon, they only want you to see what they want to see. They only take you to the cleansed area. They only want you to take to places where there is